none of the good deal makers that I know make offers that are blind. Like you don't just send an offer. You say, okay, look, I've gone through all the information and I'm ready to talk about what a deal might look like. Let's get together, ideally in person, but if you can, at least on a Zoom. Let's get together so that I can go over the deal points. And I don't make offers, and none of the good deal makers that I know make offers that are blind. Like you don't just send an offer. You say, okay, look, I've gone through all the information and I'm ready to talk about what a deal might look like. Let's get together, ideally in person, but if you can, at least on a Zoom. Let's get together so that I can go over the deal points. And this is something, Mickey, that I think can help you too, is that when you're delivering that LOI, like when you're to that point, they should be agreeing to each and every point on the LOI as you're going through having the conversation about what the offer is going to look like. And you might send it over immediately before then, or you might email it to them when you're having a conversation. But my preferred thing to do is to just share the document and go through it point by point so that I get agreement there. And then I'm not going to have any pushback, because if they don't agree to something on, I'm not going to have any pushback once I send it, because we've already talked through it all, right? And they've got whoever they need on the, Zoom or at the meeting with them. If they've got an advisor, bring the daggone advisor. I'm not having this conversation 10 times, right? So it's, hey, look, okay, so what we're thinking is a purchase price of X. I know you and I talked about that and you wanted X, but we talked about some of the challenges. And so we're going to do Y. And one of the ways we're going to get you to Y, the price of Y, is that we're going to do an earnout. So you had agreed to seller financing of 80%. Is that right? Oh yeah, I did. Okay. Or at that time, they can say, oh no, I was only, and this happens. No, I mean, no, I said 80%, but now that I think about it and I see it there, I'm really only willing to do 60. Okay, well, you're only willing to do 60, but you are willing to do 60. 60 works for you. Oh, yeah, I can do 60. Okay, great. So then I'm going to change that to 60. And then I want to look at the other deal points. And then I'm going to go through all the deal points. Then I'm going to come back to the things that they had an issue with and say, okay, so now on deal point number 3, you said that you could do 60 in financing. So that's going to leave us, because before I know we had talked about 80 and I really think it should be 80. Is there no way you could do 80? Well, I guess I could do 70. Okay, great. That's the process. You're going to have a lot of movement there. And when you're off that call, you should, or out of that meeting, you should have agreement so that all you're doing is sending them the thing that they've already agreed on. So then what I'm going to say is, okay, so I'm going to write everything up based on what we've talked about here. So I just want to be sure before I do that, that all of this works. So I'm going to send this over and you're good with that, right? Oh yeah, I'm good with that. It's very hard once they've committed through a conversation and a walkthrough that has a collaboration to get to something that they say yes to 16 times, for them to come back and say, well, I'm not going to do it. And it would be shocking to me to have them, get cold feet at the last minute. It happens rarely, but if you're going through that process, do that on a live in-person or Zoom and go through each point before you send it. I don't ever just say, hey, Andrew, I'm glad that we talked about this, and it looks like your auto dealership is worth about $7 million, so I'm just going to send you my LOI. And Andrew might say, okay, because Andrew's got his auto dealership thing, his auto repair shop for sale, but he hasn't agreed to anything. Right? And I've sent this thing and now he's just going to poke holes in it, as opposed to me presenting it and explaining each step why we're doing what we're doing and handling any objections that he's got while we're on that call in that meeting. Then I send the agreed upon deal points. So it's very hard for him to walk back and say, I looked at it and I know I said I'd do it, but I'm not willing to do any seller financing anymore. Then I'd be, well, I don't understand what changed between when we talked and you agreed to it, and then you agreed to it again, and then you agreed to it a last time before we got off. And now I just changed my mind. Okay, well, I think you're kind of flaky, so we might not be able to do a deal. And I would probably at that point say, well, look, that's really what we talked about. And it concerns me a little bit that you agreed to that. And then now you're saying that you're not going to do it. So Why don't we just put this on hold for a little bit? I would definitely do a takeaway there. Why don't we just put this on hold for a little bit? Let me think about it. You can think about it, and then we can revisit it maybe next month. Time. Let them think about. Let them not have the thing that they want, which is the sell of the business. Let them continue to have and experience all the feelings, problems, emotions around the things they're unhappy with in the business. Let them think about maybe this one buyer who's ready to close is going to walk away. And that's kind of how I would go about doing that.